Separation coming off the front. We'll check the jerseys represented here. Bissell is starting the move. Kenda 5 Hour Energy is there. Jelly Belly Kenda. And then Zach Davies, our solo Flybe Australia rider, on the back of that move. Kenda, or KBS, Kelly Benefits Optum Health, was moving up. They were caught at the back of that group. There's Radlewski still struggling to catch on. And yeah, it sounds like we had 3 riders that went down on the backside. They'll be rolling through here shortly.
I think Frank Pipp was one of them. There was a Kelly Benefits rider that was late to the, but now the riders are riding up on the sidewalk, doing some window shopping in Grand Rapids here now.
Riders on the sidewalk on one of these corners, so they avoid the fencing and they're able to jump up on it. Now they come over there by the porta potty somewhere on the backside of this course, and they jump the bunny hop the curb and get back on track. But a little bit too much heat going into one of these corners. Very, very, very difficult racing conditions, needless to say.
I think it's going to fall apart like a cheap suit here now as gaps are opening up and people are starting to see riders riding on the curbs and on the sidewalks of this course. 2 riders in the lead of this race just by default as the other riders are tiptoeing through the corners. You know, but you can see the bikes are slipping on the white lines, the crossway line, the arrow on the turns, the turn lane there. Here they come in the home stretch. 2 riders followed by 2 riders. The gap's starting to opening up. The alarm bell's ringing now behind. You can see everybody saying, hey, there goes the race. This is a championship.
Yeah, major separation at the front of this bike race. Now look at all the gaps forming. This is a good opportunity for these riders. They've got to try and go. That was Andy Jacquemain, the Bissell rider, sitting on the front. But this is the story. These major gaps forming right here are what are going to make or break this bike race. This race is falling apart.
Yeah, some of these team riders have bigger fish to fry beginning in Colorado on Monday. And how many chances do you want to take? You're going to be on national television all week long next week. It is very sketchy in these corners. And you are not here to win this race. You're here to ride in support of one of your team riders. So it is beginning once again to become a dynamic situation out on course with 25 laps to go. Again, thank you to Herman Miller. What a great sponsor here this weekend in Grand Rapids. You guys have been a hardy bunch as well.
Tom Soliday coming into the Shimano neutral support pits now for the Kelly Benefit Strategies Optum Health team. He went down to the left side. We're seeing some dirt on the skin suit. The mechanics checking out the bike. The bike seems to be in order, but Soliday went down on the backside of the course. He is going to restart. He'll jump back into this race, guys.
Yeah, you can come into it. That's one we talked about, the mechanical failure of a bike, but if a crash is the same as a mechanical failure, there can maybe nothing wrong with the bike, but they will be allowed the free lap. He will be released. And he was one that went down on the backside of the course, and I think he was with Frank Pipp. I have not seen Pipp come into the pit area.
So they come hammering through, and that is rider number 12 who's moved to the front. That's Bradley White riding for United Healthcare. So White is there, Huff is there. Now about 6 or 7 of those KBS riders also moving forward. As we are down to 24 laps remaining, but it looks like as we continue on here this afternoon, we are going to get this one done. The national race calendar, the NRC Women's Criterium will be coming up here shortly.
And that was Jake Ryklewski losing ground. I did see Frank Pipp up in the lead group, rider number 1 for the Bissell team, one of their field sprinters, keeping his nose out of the wind. But Jake Ryklewski from Bay City going off the back of this race for Kenda. Still holding on, hoping that everyone sits up, hoping that the pace relaxes in the front, but it's not relaxing. It's staying strung out. Riders wisely keeping the pace just a little bit high so that it doesn't come back together and allow all those riders to come back into contention.
And with conditions as they are, Brad, we know as well as anybody, you always risk losing a race if you're going to try to win one. But I think that's a little bit understated here this afternoon as they begin to put the wattage to the power, to the pedals. They'll begin taking greater chances in each and every one of these corners around this course.
Yeah, it looks like these guys just working out the kinks now. We were seeing major separations in the field in the first few laps after the restart. That was the guys just shaking out their legs, warming up those legs again. A lot of heavy legs out there in the field when you have a reset situation like this. So these guys just looking back for those legs. There's Sterling McNell closing down a gap. He's been working with Chad Hartley to close that gap for about 2 laps now. Hartley and McNell have been taking turns on the front, but it was the same gap. But that gap's starting to come down. I'm going to say that they'll be back up in that lead group shortly.
Well, it was Jesse Anthony trying to bridge to that lead group, and it appeared anyway to me, Brad, that the big chase group of about 15 or 20 riders was also cutting down the gap. So it could well be that ebb in the flow is beginning to put this whole field all back together. As we are looking at 23 now, probably 22 laps to go when we see our riders come through. Again, wanting to thank some of our big sponsors here this weekend for this national championship of Criterium Racing, presented by USA Cycling and Team Bissell, Gatorade, Shimano providing neutral support. Almost 12 minutes into their restart, so their legs are starting to come back around. They got their heart rates back up. And things, fortunately, are beginning to dry out, I think, just enough. I can see almost a drying of the bricks where you're standing. So we should have a great final 20 laps or so. So Grand Rapids, help us out. Let's make some noise. These guys cheering through. We've got no boards to bang on anymore, that's for sure.
Well, this is Ken to 5 Hour Energy presented by Gear Grinders. Pat Lemieux on the front there, taking a pull as he's putting the hurt on this group. Look at the back of this bike race, really starting to blow up. There are no easy rides in Grand Rapids today.
That was Bradley White second wheel as they went through with, what is it, 22 to go, I think? But how about, you were talking about Bradley White in the labor room most of the night, having his wife give birth, and now he's out here at the front of this thing doing a whole lot of work for his teammates on the United Healthcare squad out of somewhere regionally here in Michigan.
Brad White, I believe, from Holland, Michigan. Anyone? All right, we'll go with Holland, Michigan.
We want to thank the Western Michigan Sports Commission, enriching the quality of life in Western Michigan through youth and amateur sports. The West Michigan Sports Commission proudly supports the Herman Miller Grand Cycling Classic. Learn more at westmichigansportscommission.com.
Field insight now on the finishing line as we're seeing riders still spreading out over the road. Here's a big attack coming on the outside as this rider goes way up against the fences. This is a big throwdown from Bissell Pro Cycling. That is none other than Frank Pip. Pip is going as he has blood dripping down the side of his leg. He went down, got back in the race, and is now attacking this group. These are the guys that are caught out here, the guys off the back.
Yeah, Pip is clear right now. We look at the video from the backside of this course. Frank Pip is still carrying a lot of speed through these corners. In fact, you could just feel a couple of extra degrees of lean on the bike. He is still on the rivet out there, putting everything he's got into it. So Pip is clear, but it looks like he's got just about here somebody on his wheel.
Zach Davies here in the Shimano neutral support pits, who barely has anything left on his bibs, went down, tore the whole side of his kit up, but he is going to jump back in and race. Davies racing for the Fly-V Australia squad. He's just scraped up. It seems to be seemingly minor road rash here. Looks all right, seems to feel good. Looks like he's going to jump back in.
And Frank Pip's solo breakaway effort has been caught by the field. The field now Grupo Compacto for the most part. Yeah, all that second group, it looks like they did make contact. There was a small group dangling off the back. Looks like they've come back together. Frank has been caught, and now the field together out of the final turn. We did see one rider lose it on the backside of the course. Just caught a glimpse of somebody going down.
A reshuffling here as let's see who's taking a look on the front. This is going to be Ken to 5 Hour Energy again, as this time that might have been Semper, might have been Rob White.
No, James Semper, yep. You were correct with Stemper. There's a second group that's just about to catch on. 4 riders from the Kelly Benefit Squad trying desperately to get back up in contention. Rider number 52, Coca-Cola, is that rider from the Subway team out of Indianapolis, dangling off the back now, losing contact and losing contention for the championship. 20 laps to go.
I'll tell you this much. They are using every inch of this pavement, of these bricks, of this concrete out here this afternoon, all over the road as they try to carry as much speed as they possibly can. There's Jeremy Powers now out of Beverly, Massachusetts. He's coming into the pits as well. Let's find out what's going on with Jeremy Powers down to Brad Soner.
Well, our UCI commissar giving these riders or giving our mechanics the go-ahead. Looks like Powers just went down somewhere on course. Seems to be in all right shape. Seems to have taken a relatively soft fall out there. So he's just going to come in and get the free lap. Remember, even if there's no mechanical issue, if you do go down in the crash, you are entitled to a free lap. So that's what Powers is doing here. Guys, down here on course, we can see some of these bricks starting to dry out completely. We're just seeing some wet spots around the start-finish stretch here. Backside of the course is similar to that. Some of those standing water patches starting to dry up as we get racing and back underway here. Now Bissell sending a new rider, as this time it's Andy Jacquemains leading the front of the field.
And there goes Jay Powell out of the pit area quickly to up to speed and back in the race. Andy Jacquemains was that rider on the front from Bissell. You're correct.
Well, that group off the back, that separation that we saw has now caught. They are all back together, one big group rolling through the line.
Hey, speaking of Bissell, Bissell is a proud sponsor of this 2011 Herman Miller Grand Cycling Classic. Thanks to all of the sponsors and fans for their support of this great national championship in the hometown here in Grand Rapids.
Rider number 46 from Team Type 1 is withdrawing. Alex Bowden shaking off the back and losing ground, never regaining. Once you lose contact for good, like Jake Rogluski did moments ago, the race is over, and you'll look at the next one on the calendar. 19 laps to go. Yes, the pace is still high, relatively high for what the conditions are on the backside of the course. As Brad pointed out, there's a lot of standing water back there. It's starting to dry out here on the home stretch, but you can't fall asleep at the wheel because there are still wet sections.
A nice crown in the road here, and it looks like Jelly Belly now at the front. That is rider number 32, Charlie Huff, who was rolling by here a few minutes ago. He's been aggressive. He's been near the front of this field the last 6 or 7 laps. We are down to 18 laps to go. Brad Sonner, what's your read with 18 to go?
Yeah, we saw Brad Huff on the front there. Remember, Huff, a former national Criterium champion, 2007. Brad Huff won that title, wore the Stars and Stripes jersey for a year, and he would certainly like to get that back for another year of racing.
Now, by this time, they're just trying to figure out how this course is going to finish. They're seeing no breakaways getting away. They're seeing that how it races wet. They know how it races dry, but now they're just trying to probably sort out where that final attack should go and where the highest speeds can be maintained as they now start thinking for that final sprint. If no breakaways are going to go, I look for a Brad White type. Brad White's a stronger for longer type of rider. I look for a rider like them to come out of the field and try to eliminate the competition early and avoid the sprint altogether. Brad White, who a couple years ago here spent a good portion of the day off the front. His teammate Carl
Menzies.
No, Carl Menzies. I'm going far too farther back. Carl Menzies, who now lives in Grand Rapids, was the winner that day. So Brad White is that type of rider. Might just try to find a time to go away. 17 laps to go. Rider number 18, Jesse Anthony on the front.
Jesse Anthony is that type of rider without a doubt, as we saw him in the breakaway at Tour of Utah. Anthony now driving on the front. If he can get away, Jesse Anthony is a definite threat for the National Criterium Champions jersey.
And keep in mind, he was a member of that second group for the first 7 or 8 laps here this afternoon. Bridge solo, he was up the first of the chasers to get to the lead group, and he's clawed his way to the front. So at 17 to go now, a guy who has got, well, you were talking about in our pre-race show, Jesse Anthony, a 7-time national cyclocross champion, worthy of sketchy, slippery, problematic course conditions, no doubt about that, out of Beverly, Massachusetts.
Yeah, Jesse Anthony didn't see the problem as we were racing in a hurricane. That was par for the course for Anthony, who was raced in some of the toughest conditions out there.
But it looks like he's still at the front and in control of things out there. At least it is a Kelly Benefit Strategies rider. And they should be turning the corner here in just a second down the road and bringing it through with, I think we'll be turning the lap card to 16 to go as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough here for these guys to get away into a breakaway. After you sit that long, after our rain delay, it's very tough to get those sprinters' legs back.